Hi, this is Al Fuentes. Welcome to the Self Empowerment Experience. Join me and my guests on a journey of their stories of their lives and how they have found empowerment through everyday life. It's inspiring, it's uplifting, it's exciting. People from all walks of life come on the program to share their tools, their resources, their insights, so that you may benefit from them. Thank you for stopping by and tuning in. Well, welcome.
Thanks.
To the Self Empowerment Experience.
I'm stoked.
Brian North. I'm really grateful. We've been trying to nail this down for a while. In fact, when you and I kind of were originally talking, I'm like, boom, I'll buy a mic today. And I think that was December.
I remember.
And then I sent you a picture. I'm like, ordered. Let's go.
Yep.
And I think, we're in March now, right?
Yeah.
But all that really is a testament to how busy we really are in our lives. And you have a beautiful family and a beautiful business. But yeah, talk to me about just whatever you want in general, but I'm more intrigued, and what I like bringing people on for is so people can hear some really cool stuff in people's stories. You have an amazing company that was ranked number 1 in Arizona in brokerage.
That's right.
And number 2 in agent.
Correct.
And this all came from a guy who wasn't even in the real estate industry. Before this, you were in the car industry, right? And then before that, you were waiting tables.
I'd call it hospitality. Yeah, I mean, I thought of it as hospitality. I was a waiter.
Yeah. You're like, I'm in the hospitality
That's
business.
exactly right.
I'm slinging bills and delivering
That's
bills.
how I thought about it, though. I mean, it was that, it was like whatever I was up to. I put my own prideful spin on it, so that it was something I was excited to do. But yeah.
Prideful or wanting to future step into the bigness that you're meant to be?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. At the time, I would just say I was proud. I was proud of what I did and whatever I was doing. I sold shoes at a shoe store, a runner's style shoe store in Durango, Colorado, and before that, I was at Blockbuster Video. And I think back to all those times, especially the shoe business. I mean, I call it the shoe business. I was a shoe salesman making $7 an hour, and I just can't help it because I I just studied every brand and what their value propositions were, and I listened to what the needs of people's feet and how important they were, and it's never been different.
I would call that the concept of owning yourself in the business you're in. And that's a really cool thing. I was actually in the shoe industry as well, working for JCPenney's.
Got it, yeah.
In the shoe department, fitting people.
Sure.
Saw some gnarly feet,
Yeah, we called it shoe fitting. I mean, you say it fitting, that word. It was like I wasn't a shoe salesman. I was a shoe fitter. In fact, the store I worked at was called Brown's Shoe Fit, and it was something that we were proud of. It was,
That's really cool. Yeah. There's just to speak to that, I truly believe that's one of the pieces of the framework of your own mentality that I don't know if it was you were born with or it kind of feels like you were born with, because owning yourself and showing up fully in whatever business you're in and feeling like this is you in a way, because you are it is you. I believe that's a testament to your success, but that's a unique thought process. Where does that come from as a kid?
Yeah, as a kid, I don't really know. I remember being like that as a kid. My dad tells the story about my dad was he's in the plumbing business, new construction plumbing, and he's been in new construction plumbing for a long time. My grandfather owned a new construction plumbing business. My grandfather had a really familial ecosystem or communal type feel to his business, much the same way that I do. Every Friday, all of the men that worked for my grandfather would have their significant others and children come to what they called the shop, and he would do kind of like, you have coolers full of beer and, a bunch of, cheese and salami plates, and, everyone would just kind of hang out and get to know each other better, that kind of thing. And my dad used to talk about me being kind of a party favor. He would stand me up on a chair and, rally the guys over to come around me and ask me sports questions, and he was like, Brian, you just used to blow minds. You knew every stat about every sport. Guys would ask you, how many touchdowns does this quarterback have, or whatever it might be. And it was this kind of thing. And I remember it being fun. It just was, I didn't like watch TV as a 5-year-old going, I'm going to remember stats to be a party favor. You know what I mean? It just was really anything I was into. It was just really about retaining and knowledge and understanding. And the superficial stuff was never really meant anything to me. It wasn't about the touchdown dance. It was about how he got to the touchdown dance, which is really interesting. And I don't know where that came from.
That's an amazing for a child to have. That's an amazing thought process.
Yeah, I was always paying attention to the technical side of everything.
And then what was the first job?
First job I ever had? First job I ever had was I worked at a bait and tackle store, a fishing store, cleaning up the bait shop. Really? That was it. Yeah, it was really just a hand, if you will. He paid me $3 an hour. And I was
in Colorado?
In Colorado. Yeah, I was 13 years old. I guess before that, I had a paper route, but that was short-lived. Like weeks short-lived. Yeah. It didn't.
Is it like, this isn't for me?
Well, it was like, well, I can actually tell you, my mom, we had to move a lot. And, my mom was single mom at a really early age. So, she had me when she was 17. And so in her early, when I had my paper out, I was probably 9 or 10 years old. So she was 26, 27. And, if she was running late for work one morning, as we all know what that might be like, I'd miss my paper route. That doesn't work for the guys who pay for a paper subscription. Right. You know what I mean? So our life just wasn't conducive to me running a business at 10 years old. Yeah. So that didn't work out.
It is an actual business. You can sign people up, you renew people. Yeah. I mean, that whole paper route thing. Yeah. Maybe some of the younger people wouldn't know, but that was a fundamental business.
It really was. I was excited for the opportunity. And, the kid before you he had his route. Routes didn't open up, and you had to kind of be nominated for the route. And I got my shot, and it lasted a couple weeks and was over after that. But then it was the bait and tackle store. And
were you just sweeping floors, cleaning up the
that's
dirt,
exactly
picking
right.
up worms that fell over?
That's right. Anything you needed me to do, I was just a hand around the store. And
how did you get it?
My stepfather was friends with the owner of the tackle store, and it was kind of like, hey, if you ever need help for my kid, let me know. And so it was like 2 or 3 days a week for 2 hours after school. I'd come sweep the shop and, clean the windows. He
probably didn't even need you.
He didn't. That's exactly what it was. You got it. And he didn't even really pay me. Whatever $10 or $12 that I made in a week's work, I traded for
worms.
Not worms. Yes, I did, but it wasn't worms. It was some kind of tackle or a fishing rod, or I applied it toward fishing gear, and I went fishing a lot.
I didn't realize you were that big of a fisherman.
Yeah. I fished every day.
Really?
Literally every single day. Yeah, it was I've come to learn in my adult life as I'm right now, have a coach that's helping me understand where a lot of my adult behavioral patterns come from, most of which were they're bred in you as a child, that create these common patterns in our lives. And I realized that one of them was to get the heck out of the house. Home life wasn't exactly an exciting place environment to be in. And so while fishing was wondrous for me, I really, really cherished every moment. If it was a hot summer day, I loved it as much as a cold, sleety, rainy day. I enjoyed the birds. I enjoyed the sounds. I enjoyed the hunt. I really did. If I didn't catch a single fish, it didn't matter. It was that process of
figuring it out.
All of it.
So today you didn't catch anything. Now this is not an active place to fish, and you were excited to learn one more thing to advance your fishing.
That's right. Right baits, wrong baits, how they work in windy conditions, currents, different colors of water, clear versus murky.
Did you
all of those
retain it
details.
Up here, or did you ever write anything down?
All mental retain. Yeah, I didn't write anything down. Yeah.
You mentioned something about getting out of the house.
Yeah.
I can appreciate that personally. So, and we've talked because we've known each other for 2007, 8?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
That's when we first started.
It's a beautiful thing. I've lost track of time. I haven't tracked the time that we've known each other. I really couldn't go back. It's now feels like forever in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when did you, just a quick, well, we'll figure that out later.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to stay on this track because, there's some similarities when it comes to being out of the house.
Yeah.
Single mom.
Yeah.
And it's nothing personal against my mother or yours, but we only know what we've been taught. Mm-hmm. And we only are capable of so much at the time of our evolution in that moment. Mm-hmm. And at 17, your mom is only capable of so much. Mm-hmm. My mom, having 3 kids, making $12,000 a year, newly divorced, is only capable of so much. And she's working like a lot. And then her story, which is a little different than your mom's, I'm sure, but her story, she lived a pretty troubled life. Mm-hmm. So her version of love was a much smaller version of love than I was aware of and knew. And so for me personally, I was needing to be active. I was on the search all the time, and trying to not only experience a bigger version of life, bigger version of love, but just trying to figure myself out at the same time. Was there similarities to that for you?
No, I don't know is my answer. What I mean by that is I think my mom was in search for love.
Right.
But my mom did a really good job of, her love was shown both verbally and with physical touch. Mm-hmm. I can remember my mom regularly like tickling my forehead when I went to sleep. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And, tickling my back to put me to sleep. She regularly told me she loved me. Hugs were okay. Kisses were okay. I mean, so I didn't really, she told me I could do it, right? If I wanted to have a purple mohawk and an earring and go to Boy Scouts, she would be like, we can do this.
I've seen that picture, by the way. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. It was just, and she would, borrow from friends to buy me the full Boy Scout outfit. And I'd go for 2 weeks and be like, this is for nerds. And, it's just how I was as a kid, you know what I mean? And abandon the whole thing. And she'd be like, that's okay. We're going to find your thing. So I really did have quite a bit of support and quite a bit of love. My father, really based on geography, was absent, but he was there in spirit. I mean, he called regularly and checked in, and he had a good value base and those kind of things. So while it was extremely non-traditional, I was able to extract the good parts of what was going on in the parenting situation.
So why did you feel like you needed to be out of the home so much?
My mom, her relationships, her intimate relationships, boyfriends, dating relationships, stepfather, the environment, it was just fundamentally, it wasn't a healthy environment from we didn't eat healthy. She didn't know any better. This isn't about her. She did what she knew. She 100%. Did all she knew. She did what the budget would allow for.
Absolutely.
I intuitively knew. I was in sports and, hanging out with friends who had different means than us. I understood there was a different way, and so, but it was unhealthy food, my mom smoked, you know what I mean, in the house. And so it was just like, there was like a cloud of smoke in the house all the time. And then my stepfather, probably technically an alcoholic, right. Not like what you would think of as like a throw stuff, stumble around the hallways kind of alcoholic, but just, a lot of bravado, a lot of ego, loud, you know what I mean?
You knew he was around.
That's right, for sure. And then, he was outspoken, and so that would trigger people. And then it, 3 to 4 days a week, there was people arguing. It was just that kind of an environment. It was an unhealthy environment.
How did you know that that's not what you wanted? I know that sounds like a dumb question, but there's a lot of kids that just sit in it and just like experience and just take it all in.
Yeah.
Like, what was there a deeper voice saying, get out? Was there
no, you know what I think, I've never really thought about it. So I'm going to answer your question on the fly. Like, it's like, I went right to a quick, like, what's my innate feeling, right? And early on, I don't know why, but my mom, as this single mom with little babies, kind of let us roam, I mean, she'd let us go out in the front yard and like not really pay attention to us,
That's how
like
it was in our family.
yeah.
Too.
And so like that for me, I think I had so much freedom to kind of explore and experience what was outside the house that for me, it was like, if I looked at like one hand, my right hand full of something and my left hand full of something, I liked what was better in the right hand more, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So it's like inside the house, it feels like that. And outside the house, it feels like that. I think I'm just going to be outside the house more. That's what came up in me when you asked me that question.
So let's break that down a little bit for people who are listening and want to understand. This happens to this day for all of us, by the way. And as a kid, you're more aware of it. But there is a natural desire to be in high vibrational experiences, just in all of our souls and all of our subconscious. Then there's the human construct that is something we choose to put ourselves in, mainly driven by expectation, obligation, and burden. And as a kid, as you know, with your own kids, who are amazing, by the way, they have a lot of that inner voice. What do they want? How do I want to feel? How do I want to experience? And before we got on, you were telling a story about how your one son was like, hey, you're going to put on these shoes. Explain that story real quick for me. You guys are getting out.
Yeah, so, I mean, look, I definitely have a style about me. I'm style conscious, okay? So let's just put it that way. I pay attention to it. My hair's a certain way, my shoes, my look, whatever my thing is, it's my deal, right? Yeah. And of course, as parents, we're like, I want my kid to look cool. I don't want him to there's probably an element of like not getting picked on, bullied. So he's like, pop culturally, he's being accepted. And then I have my own kind of style, and you kind of just think of like, I don't know, I want my kids to experience what I experience kind of thing. Right. So I take him to the van store to buy him cool, like check colored Vans, and we pick them out, and he goes home and then he never wears them. And he wears what I think are like dorky shoes, and his pants are funny the way he wears them, like I'm almost picking on my kid, Here, I don't want him to get bullied, and like I'm bullying him,
right, like this weird
yeah, so I give him all like, how come you're not wearing the shoes we just bought you?
Yeah,
like, they're cool. Yeah, like we're going to go hang out. And he's like, because I like these shoes better. Like, why? Guess what his answer is? Because they're more comfortable. Like, that's a good concept. So I'm like, no, but I know these other ones, they're cool, and we just picked them out. And he's like, Dad, I mean, if they're cool for you and you want me to wear them for you, then I will. But like, I don't want to wear them. That's like, ooh, there's a big self-realization in that moment.
It's like a big aha
yeah, that's
moment.
Right. You got it.
And that's exactly what you said in just a different way.
Yeah.
Essentially kids, especially kids, and we observe them, whether you were a parent or not, you can observe kids really just doing what calls to their soul,
right.
their beingness. And if the right hand is this and the left hand is this and the left hand calls to you as a kid, you just go yes. And there's no obligation, expectation. Now, some younger kids are kind of born with a certain level of expectation, burden, obligation, and then fit into that role where they won't choose the thing that feels good. And that's okay. But in the majority, that is the case. And what I find fascinating about that is how quickly we lose that as adults, and how much that we get into expectation, obligation, and burden. And so for me, just asking you, well, why outside? Mm-hmm. For everyone, it's a great moment to just think about, well, how often am I saying yes to what feels good, truly feels good? And how often am I making choices based off of expectation or obligation? Dad, if you want me to wear them because you think they're cool, then I'll wear them.
You got it.
Or whatever that is.
I had a real adult version of this yesterday.
Really?
So, yeah. And it's the end of an era for me of obligation. I was called by a really close friend of mine who worked with us, who has since moved on the last 4 or 5 months to Grand Canyon University. And she reached out to me and asked if I would do the keynote presentation for Grand Canyon University Honors College yesterday. And my ego fired, the bravado part of my ego fired and said, yes, right? That was my answer right away. Oh, wait, let me ask, when? How long do you need me to speak? What do you want me to speak on? What's the, all of these sorts of things. And it was like, this date, such and such, like, I'd be honored, and I want to do it for you, right? I'd love to be of value to you, right? So I booked it. And not looking at my calendar for the next 5 weeks, I had no bandwidth. I mean, I had just zero bandwidth, not even mental bandwidth to be able to put toward what really I wanted to show up great for. And as each day passed, I wore this presentation.
Like heavier and heavier.
Here it comes. And it just every day, a new brick on my shoulders, and then another brick on my shoulders, and another brick on my shoulders. And then about 5 days before the keynote presentation, and for those first 4 or 5 weeks, I'm like, I need to write this speech, right? And I couldn't. I just couldn't even get a pen in my hand. I couldn't muster up the energy. Anytime I was going to do it, it was at 4:30 in the morning or it was at 9:30 at night, and I just couldn't put the energy to it.
There was a lot of inner fighting.
It was all inner fighting. Wow. The whole thing was just this inner turmoil. And a week out, I went, you know what? I went back to the conversation I had about the morning I called you in Portland, Oregon, and I couldn't sleep the night before for my first presentation for Fidelity. And it was, I kept resonating this thing of like, just show up as your best self and it'll be just fine. You're not there for them, you're there for you, and these sort of thing. And I went, I'm just going to freestyle this thing. Like, I'm a keynote presentation, I'm being paid, which feels now there's this extra obligation. I've really got to show up now to do this. And I went, I'm just going to freestyle it. I'm going to show up my best self and I'm going to freestyle it. Now the burden's really on, right? Now I'm really wearing it. I'm nervous. I haven't been nervous to get in front of a room of people in a long time. Right. And the night before, so Friday night, I woke up at 2 a.m, acid reflux. Literally, I've worked myself now into where my body is firing, and I have acid reflux. I've got horrible gas in my stomach, and I wake up tired. So now I'm just completely not my best self. I got to get myself mentally prepared, and I go in, and I did a good job, just like that. You heard the tone in my voice, like me beating myself up. I was like, it wasn't great. I was happy with the content. It wasn't my best self. And I got in my car and I felt like 9,000 pounds of bricks were off my shoulders. And I went, that's the last time I do anything out of obligation. Like, it's okay to say no. I've got to really fall in love with that. So that thing that you talk about of walking through this world out of obligation versus out of self-service and showing up for yourself, like, it will be a pivot point in my life for sure. Because it was something I was so excited for. It's something I would tell you I'd worked my whole life for. It was something I had intentionally set that I wanted to be an impact on people age 19 to 27. I started saying that 2 years ago, and this was my first opportunity, yet I did not serve myself first in the present moment and say, no, this isn't the time to do this, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So, well, that also explains the buildup of this. And after a big emotional release, even an aha moment, part of it, the emotional release, was the actual speaking. Okay, now it's done. And then the aha moment, the chemicals that get released into the body is huge. And so today you wake up feeling that. But you spoke to a couple things there. The obvious one you already mentioned, but one that is a subtle one is our emotions truly affect our physical self.
For sure.
And for anyone who wonders what that means on a deeper level, some people get stressed and get tension headaches, or shoulders get achy, they get tight. Some people, they throw out their back or whatever else it is. But it goes farther than that. What?
I'm all of that right now.
That's hilarious.
Every single part of it right now.
Yeah. But this on a very real level, like this goes as far as cancer. It goes as far as physical breakdowns and, just debilitating like shoulder issues. And we talked about that. Even sometimes the emotional will create ego bravado to have you do that one more flip and land in the water and jack yourself up. So sometimes the emotion is literally the chemicals releasing, because the brain fires how you're feeling and thinking. And some of the strongest chemicals you can release because of how much they just are nonstop. Positive vibrations, energy is really a huge, powerful chemical release too, in a positive direction, but it's not as nonstop as fear, doubt, worry, stress. And as you build up from this last week, it's a nonstop brick upon brick on your shoulder, dumping a ton of chemicals into your body. Now your blood has to process and release, and your kidneys and your liver are more strained. The toxicity level goes up, the acid level goes up. And I'm not talking about the acid reflux, although that is like a volcano, if you will. I'm just talking about the acidity of the body increases as we release more chemicals. And so then we're more susceptible to sicknesses and issues and illness. And then those acids and the chemicals can sit in a certain area of the body. So someone starts having shoulder problems, elbow, knee, ankle, or it can sit in an organ and fester into some kind of a tumor. That's how big of a deal the emotional construct is and how it affects us. And the ultimate is the acid level got so high in your body.
I can taste it in my tongue. You know what I mean? Like, I wake up in the morning and I can tell on my tongue that I'm acidic, you know?
Yeah. And it's important for people to know, like, what you think about truly affects your health state. So how do you counter that? Like, what are you doing to counter? Obviously now you've gotten through the speech and you have an aha moment. And part of the counter is, I'm never going to compromise myself in that way again. I'm going to be more mindful. And yes, I still want to do it, but at a time that honors me. That's an obvious counter. But what's the other work? What's the mental work that you have to do to counter the chemicals?
It's incremental self-auditing, you know? I mean, that's really what it is for me.
That sounds very technical.
Yeah, well, it's like, I mean, a self-audit, it's like if I had a balance sheet of my beingness, you know, and you just go through and you're going, what's not serving me anymore, right? I mean, you and I have been talking for how long about me quitting drinking? How long have we been talking about that? Need to drink less. It's been a while.
And it's probably 4 years, I'd say.
And it's not, did I ever say to you, hey, Al, I think I'm an alcoholic? I think I really have a problem.
You never were?
Never, ever. I never have had a problem with alcohol. I've at least twice a year, I don't drink for 30 or 45 days. I'll just go clean just to clean my body out. 3 years ago, I did 120 days leading up to my 40th birthday. But I quit drinking. I quit drinking January 7th.
Oh, awesome.
And so for me, it's like, well, when are you going to start again? I'm not, you know, well, why not? Because it doesn't serve me anymore. And I never had a problem with it. It's just, if I look at it, the process of self-auditing was like, my financial life is, you know, I want to make sure that I'm in my best financial state. Alcohol is expensive. It's an expensive problem. You know, I want to be my most healthy. Well, if I drink, then I don't sleep well. I don't sleep well, then I wake up and I'm not mentally ready and prepared. If I wake up sluggish, I don't want to work out. If I don't work out, then I don't move my body. So it's just like that one thing is something that has 7 different spokes off of it that can make one effect. That's an easy thing to audit and just take out of the life. So it's just, you know, things like that.
It taxes the body too.
That's
I
right.
mean, just the amount of energy it takes to process alcohol. And
and backing up real quick, that process self-auditing, if you hear it was like, what am I doing to, what is that mental work? You know, on the human level, I'm looking at finances. I'm looking at better sleep patterns. I'm looking at a better diet. I'm looking at more exercise, right? Those sorts of things. And here was one thing I found that would positively affect all of those things versus I'm going to eat better. I'm going to spend less. I'm going to, you know, instead of going to try and fix all of those things, I found a conduit that would make an incremental difference in all of those. It's a more efficient path to wellness.
That's actually a really brilliant, because it can be a low-hanging fruit, because in theory, it's a fundamental, attainable thing. Now, emotionally, if we feel like we need to be a part of this drinking thing because everyone else is drinking, that's where it gets tough. But if you just think about the function of drinking or not drinking, it's a really simple, doable, anyone can do it, as long as they have the emotional fortitude.
That's right.
And to say, I want to honor myself more than I want to honor this experience. Another piece that you didn't mention about anything, it could be working out, it could be alcohol, it could be hiking, it could be anything. The minute we rely on whatever it is to relax us, which alcohol often does, open us up, get us to a state of like carefree and having fun. And alcohol can represent a lot of those things. Whenever we need something, and for other people, those same things can also be said about working out. The minute something outside of us is our answer, to any one of those variables and more, we've disempowered ourselves.
100%. In fact, what I'm realizing right now, when I'm not drinking, it's funny, I would say something like, man, I just feel like I'm more irritable. I'm not. I'm just conscious of the irritability that existed before I drank alcohol. Mm-hmm. You understand?
100%.
And then when I would drink, I wasn't conscious of how irritable I really was. Mm-hmm. And now the question is, do I go have a drink to be less irritable?
Or do I release irritability by learning what's causing it?
Precisely. And I'm in this spot right now where I've been explaining myself, like I'm going from being the Incredible Hulk back to Bruce Banner, instead of Bruce Banner to the Incredible Hulk. But it is very much a feeling of reinvention, turning myself inside out kind of thing, with clarity from, it's a scary thing though. That clarity is scary. Awareness is scary.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, I didn't realize I was showing up like that, and that it makes it really easy to want to default to things like, whether it's medicine, or the other thing is sleep. Mm-hmm. I can just go close my eyes and this will go away, things like that. Cause
that's one of the biggest things in depression is people sleep a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's this, it's an interesting time right now. Like, no, I want to be awake to this. Mm-hmm. I want to go face this. And that's, I'm getting more comfortable in that. But for me, I'm somebody who likes to be liked. I like to be wanted. I like to feel like I feel felt. I like for people to feel safe around me. Sure. And I'm realizing I got some work to do in all those areas in a more conscious way, which is at first it's a bummer. It's like,
because you're like, man, this is a lot. I thought I was doing pretty good.
That's right. You got it. Yeah. And then it's also like, well, gosh, self-realization starts the healing process. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, like, all right, at least I know.
Self-realization and self-auditing are really two interchangeable.
Yeah, I think that the self-realization starts the audit process, right? I mean, I can be like, there's nothing wrong with me, and then I don't have to audit. Right. You know what I mean? Like, oh my gosh, there's some things I got to really stretch here. So now what are the things that I'm doing in my life, or what are the patterns I've created, or those sorts of things, so that I can now start to audit. Yeah, and then that's where the work begins, and then it's practice. Yeah. And practice is really hard. There's that old saying, old dogs, new tricks. I'm realizing the reality of that, but I'm also like, I'm going to change that saying. Right. You know what I mean?
It can be tough, but there's some things to really speed up the process, and I'll explain those. Because, we can go a million different directions all the time. So let me just say it, and then that way we don't miss coming back to it. To integrate this fast and to make it a truth, you can't just be a frontal lobe thought process. You have to close your eyes, do some really good breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. This is for somebody who doesn't even meditate, visualizer. Anyone can do this. You just put a timer on, 2-3 minutes, close your eyes. And all you do is breathe as deep as you can in through your nose, out through your mouth. And that starts 3 minutes. Once the timer goes off, then you just add another 3 minutes, and then you think of this new thought construct, new way you want to see yourself showing up. And if you've got an event tonight and you don't want to drink and you want to be really strong in yourself, you breathe in, not just into the frontal lobe now, because now that you've activated the breath, you breathe that into the body, and you have to pull it into the actual cells of the body. If you can get the thoughts, words, feelings, visualization, imagery into the cellular being, you have stored it deeper into your body, so that your body now holds a level of strength to support you in making the change, or not drinking, or whatever else it is. So for people who are wondering, well, how do you do this? That's a big part of the process.
Massive part.
And then consistency every day. There's still things I'm working on that when I started my journey over 15 years ago, I'm still working on.
Yep.
And I'm every day continuing to pull them deeper and integrate them more. Patience, understanding, acceptance. I have the new way I've done the mantra is patience through understanding, awareness, and acceptance. And then I visualize what that looks like for me. But then where I wanted to go back to was the self-audit, self-realization part. What you did is you looked at your current present day life, and you look at everything that was serving you and the things that maybe or most likely aren't. and you started to think about, well, what if I change this? Does this impact this? What if I change this? And you got to the drinking one and you go, wow, this changes and impacts a lot of different areas. This is the one I want to do right now. That's a really cool self-audit because it involves where you want to go. It involves looking in real time at your landscape of your own life. And then it's something that you work on. There's another level of self-audit / self-realization that comes from evaluating your day. And it's a good one. I'm sure you do it as well. But for me, it's really important. So if I've been out running errands all day, the next morning I get up, I do my meditation, visualization, whatever you call it, which is 3, 4, 5 minutes of breathing, do some energy work on my areas of my body. And then I go, okay, let's audit yesterday. Let's self-realize. How did you show up? How did you show up going to Lowe's? Did you get frustrated? Did you get in a hurry? Did you get irritable? What does that all look like for you? And did you have positive interactions? Did you lower your vibration around somebody who was heavy? And I just go through literally my simple day. And I look for all the small things, not big things. Because fortunately, when you do look at the small things, the universe doesn't have to bring you big things to club you over the head with, because you keep growing through the small stuff and then you're good. But that process is huge in me self-auditing daily on just simple functional experiences, but it's more of a day in review and picking and seeing if there's anything. And the good things I audit as well and go, wow, like, okay, I want to do more of that. I'm going to add that to how I do it, right? Visualization bank, And if something shows up that like, oh, I gave that person attitude, or I had a little fear about how the bill ended up being $243 and I was just trying to buy some wood, Like, if I have anything, I go look at it and I go, okay, how do I want to show up differently? How can I replay that now with a different, bigger version of myself and actually rewrite yesterday and then take that into today?
How about the days when you're happy with the self-audit?
I celebrate those and I turn up the volume on them and I put like flags in them. And so that way when I show up in a day where I'm not, I go, remember this day?
What's an example of something where you're stoked on your self-audit? Like when you go like, I showed up great in that situation.
I can call a customer service rep and you get somebody who doesn't care about anything, including you. And I'm patient and I'm kind, or driving. Those are some of my 2 biggest victories, because those are areas where I seem to get triggered more. And I think it's just the sheer lack of recklessness of humans, whether it's behind a wheel or just on the phone. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but these are areas where I've really demonstrated patience through understanding, awareness, and then acceptance. And then I'm like, wow, so there was this person that I was interacting with, and I held such a space, and they didn't understand anything I was trying to tell. And I was just like, okay, listen. And I kind of visualized them and who they were and where they were at in their life and what they were trying to do and how they're doing the best they can and how they're throwing into something that they don't have full bandwidth and they were never taught the full understanding of what they're trying to navigate people through. I'm like, they just don't know. It's okay. I'll call back and I'll get a different rep, and maybe I'll get somebody who does know how to navigate this one thing. And those are big victories for me. Or when I'm dropping a client off at the airport on Friday and there's a big old traffic jam. And to me, my ego and humanness says, what's right? Every other car, right? Like if you're trying to merge into 2 lanes and traffic's backed up, it's every other car. And I looked at that situation. I'm like, wow, okay. Like that feels really good. Like I didn't care about the every other car rule. I was just like, you know what? Because I always think, like, you learn this in kindergarten. Like, how is this a conflict? This is all human judgment, by the way, which doesn't feel good and doesn't exist in understanding, acceptance, awareness. So it's really funny. That was another big one.
Yep.
And these are just recent.
Yeah, no.
And so I really look at these and I go, okay, like, this is great. And then I'm going to just keep building on these.
Very familiar.
Yeah?
Sounds familiar. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've been working on like a lot of my, it's not even self-audit, the positive self-audit, and something that I've just been really conscious about is making a deeper connection with every person I come into contact with, no matter what. And my most obvious one is the clerk at the store, right? Because it's, so people are going so fast in their day and they're so self-absorbed. If you're in a long line at a store, 4, 5, 6 people deep, watch the 5 people in front of you act as if the person standing in front of them is a robot.
Right.
They're texting on their phone. They're on the phone. The person's asking them a question. They're not even answering them. Yeah. They're not looking them in the eye.
Or some vague mumble.
Yeah. It's just, and then you get up to the line and it's like, before we get started here, how are you doing today? Watch how they are shocked. They're in shock. Like they look up and they stop and they're like, their whole head turned sideways. Like, great. Thank you for asking, and it's like just that type of a shift, and it doesn't take any more time. Right. And then as you pass through that and carry it into, and then my one for driving that I was doing it on the way up here to come and visit you is slow lane, cruise control, speed limit, and I just spend my time in that space and it just feels so much better. It's like, let everybody else drive around me fast, angry, in a hurry, and those are 2 places, especially because I do a lot of driving, that have really allowed me to calm my heart rate. And the other thing I do is I don't have any sound in my car. So I don't listen to the radio anymore. I don't listen to music. It's an opportunity to get quiet. So it's like those little things throughout the day that are helping in my self-audit. So,
that's amazing. Slow lane, cruise control, speed limit.
That's right.
That's a fun one.
It's a good one.
That would be a good one.
It's a test.
And it's just a simple human task, but watch how it stirs emotions.
That's right.
And then you have to deal with those emotions that come up and work through patience, work through calmness, work through it's okay. Because that word, that has to be a mantra. It's okay.
That's right.
I'll get where I'm going.
It's funny you said understanding, awareness,
and acceptance.
Acceptance. Mine for acceptance, an old Chris McLaughlin favorite is unattachment or non-attachment. That's been a big one for me lately. It's a very emotional real estate market right now, and very emotional. The agents are emotional because it's difficult. Buyers and sellers are very emotional because there's not a lot going on in that space. And I'm getting a lot of heightened voices when I'm talking on the phone, and hanging up the phone and going, did I do my best? Did I really was I paced? Did I raise my voice? Was my body language, off? Was I in the moment? And going, I did my best. It sounds like I didn't do my best because someone's yelling at me right now, or they're not happy. But if I did my best, being unattached from that and moving on, moving through that phone call and moving on with my day. But I do check in at the end of those moments. Did I do my best? Was that
did I show up?
Was I conscious?
Did I lower a vibrational? Right. Did I respond vibrationally to where they're
That's
at?
Right.
Or did I stay high?
You got it.
Stay in my truth, stuff like that.
That's the self-audit.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Since you brought up kind of real estate and North & Co. and everything else, when we first started working together, when did you shift from being working as a manager in for a Green Street, right?
Yep.
What year was that? Do you remember?
That was 2009, late 2009.
Okay, so we met just before that then, which is really cool because sometimes I forget how long I've known people.
I know. Well,
and that's 11 years.
11 years.
To me, it's amazing because there's a part of me that feels like I've known you forever.
I know. That's what I was saying earlier.
And part of me feels like, man, it was just yesterday that we met, right?
Yeah.
Like, you've done a lot in a short amount of time. And I remember those first kind of 3 years when you were blowing up big in real estate. And I remember us having a conversation about this. It's so vivid in my mind in one of our sessions. And people are like, why are you so successful? What are you doing? And your simple answer, I just care. Do you remember that?
100%.
You're like, I just care. And
I remember the first time I said that.
Yeah.
Not to you, but in another conversation. And it became something from that moment on.
You're like,
I remember.
And I remember everything about it. You were just like, I just care. Like there was this body language to you and everything. And it was so deep and so pure. And it comes with such a profound truth. And it's really been the model that has built from going from that to having a beautiful team, breaking into Arcadia, which, is not an easy thing, especially when there's people and agents that have been there forever, have 90% of the listings and, close 90% of the buyers and And then you're just this guy who goes from 0 to 100 miles an hour in a short amount of time and breaking into a market with a simple, I just care, which was, I care about myself, I care about them, I care about the transaction, I care about them getting into a home, I care about them getting what they want, I care about how I show up, I care about all these fundamental things. That's the deeper definition of I care, right?
For sure.
And even now, today, when I look at North & Co. and what they're doing, there's so many different, you mentioned Chris. Chris is doing mindful seminars and self-empowerment seminars. And I get to come in gratefully and share on different things. And then there are other people who, and I'll see it all the time because the list every week on stories, if you follow North & Co. on Instagram, you'll see every week it shows what the week holds, who's doing what. And there are so many North & Co.ers that care and want to contribute to the community and want to offer their wisdom, offer their time, their information for people. I really see that simple individual guy that said, I just care, truly integrated into everybody there.
It's beautiful. When you say it, I can feel and see what you're saying. And I intuitively knew we were going there. What I feel like what I'm feeling in my body is I need to stop and smell the roses. That's what I'm feeling. Like I'm like, you're right. And while I intuitively would agree with you, I haven't actualized it.
Yeah. How do you do that? Well, what are you going to do now to actualize that?
Well, I'll go back for just a second to that obligation yesterday that I had, and that being the pivot point. When I look at my calendar tonight to do my Sunday planning for this week, I have zero. There are no openings in my calendar, none. Like there isn't an opening where I'm like, go sit in the corner and stare out the window for 30 minutes. Go sit and have lunch by yourself. Those don't exist. So I've not offered myself an opportunity to stop and smell the roses. I mean, if my calendar is 100% full, I book right through lunch. I don't even book an hour to eat. You know what I mean? That's, and so it has to start there. Or the only other option is run 10, 12 hours a day, somehow being so good at self-auditing and self-awareness that while I'm driving down the road in cruise control with no sound on, that's my moment where I could self-actualize. And that's unrealistic. That's not going to work. I'm driving, so how can I be detached from driving to be able to actualize it? Right. So it's just going to start with, offering myself more time, whether it's as simple as calendaring it, or creating events. I could go into the creative side of it, which would be creating time to connect with people who are serving that I care mentality or,
Can we bring that back? Can we bring that back as one of the themes?
Right now? Is that what you're saying?
In North & Co.?
Yeah.
I'd love to see in big, bold, I care, and have some kind of cool tag where people start saying I care in that moment. And that would be a fun thing kind of to bring back. And to me, knowing how fast I've been going, because getting this house, I feel definitely since August, I've been doing about 9,000 RPMs with everything I've been doing and the travel and trips and business. And just business alone has kept me much in that schedule mode. And then any extra time that I'm not just doing business in some way, shape, or form, I've been just trying to get this house to where it needs to be. And in those times, I understand they're short term. And as long as you can make this week a short term experience versus just your life. And then, but in those times, that's where 5-10 minutes of visualization, where you can take a deep breath in and you unplug from being a realtor, you unplug from being a dad, you unplug from being anyone to anybody for 5-10 minutes. And you visualize yourself in a giant warehouse because a warehouse is a great thing to visualize with nothing in it. It's just concrete as far as you can see, big giant metal walls, and it's just like, and just see yourself there with nothingness, and allow yourself to get into a state of total detachment for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Even when this week comes, you'd be surprised at how huge that is. You're creating a sacred space within that gives you the exhale that can last you through the week. If you're doing it daily, you know.
Yeah, I am doing it daily right now.
Yeah.
It's the most consistent I've been with my visualization and breath work, maybe ever.
Yeah.
It's part of my morning routine every morning. Yeah. So, and I do it, I feel pretty good. I think I got to mix it up a little bit for my body. I think it's the second thing I do in the morning. I drink a big glass of water to start my morning, and then I do my visualization. And I feel like it might be a little too early. I feel like I might need to get myself going a little bit more. I catch myself almost falling asleep, which I think there could be something good about that. But then again, like, because I'm not great at it. I'm not exercised, you know. Right. I'm not my visualization fitness is not quite there yet. I'm still in that tired state. I'm allowing thoughts to creep in and kind of dominate the visualization sometimes. The other thing I'm doing is I'm still listening to old visualizations that we've done together, which are still really great. I mean, I have ones they're not specific to a time, to like something that we were working through together. Sure. And I have some favorites that I listen to over and over and over again. But I like this empty warehouse thing because it's almost what I was thinking of when you said that was like, I'm starting over. But I didn't think about it in a scary way. I thought about it in an exciting way. Right. Like, oh man, I got an empty warehouse. I can go fill it with new ideas, thoughts, creativity, that kind of thing. So yeah, but it's fun. My visualization is strong right now, which is really good.
That's really great. Yeah. I also do water first thing in the morning, at least 25 to 30 ounces of water. And then I do some chlorophyll. I do my spirulina, and then I put a couple of grains of Hawaiian salt underneath my tongue. Then I stretch. This is where I feel like you could get a little bit more blood flow. I do some stretching. I do some squats and some push-ups. I don't do the push-ups. I don't do the squats, but I do stretch. Cool. Yeah, so 10 minutes of stretching. I don't do the supplements, so I should do supplements. I had like a supplement regimen that I was doing, but then I wasn't feeling great after breakfast. And so I backed off of like a traditional breakfast. I was making like a spread every morning, you know, for the kids. Cause it was kind of fun waking up in the morning and making breakfast before school and us all sitting down at the table and having breakfast, kind of breaking bread together. But I wasn't feeling great. And so I kind of pulled back off of that. And then the supplements I was taking were more like pill form and they were like too much for my stomach on a more empty stomach. So some things add back, but yeah, so spirulina creates alkalinity, and it coats and more protects the stomach, and it gives you great B12 and great iron. Great. And so those things are really, and it won't like disrupt it actually calms acid. So it'll be really nice that way. You can also squeeze a little bit of lemon in your water, which increases alkalinity, and then the salt increases absorption. I really feel like that. And then add in some squats, and I just literally keep my feet shoulder width apart, as square as possible, and I squat as deep as I can. And at first they're a little more shallow, maybe not even 90 degrees for the first 3 or 4. Then I get about 5 or 6 of them in at 90, and then I get fluid enough to where I can actually go past 90 and almost sit my butt to my heels. That's like stretching. That first stretch, you don't quite get it there. Oh man, I'm like, that's right. You know, yeah, I look at people who can get up and just literally be a rubber band. I'm like, how do you do that? Not me. Yeah, not me. But then after 3 or 4 minutes, I'm like, oh, I can wrap my fingers under my toes. You know, so yeah. Yeah, but that would be a really cool ad, and so add just some things that would give you what you're looking for, alkalinity and nourishment wise, and the lemon and the sea salt, and then that puts minerals back in, it puts alkalinity back in, it gives you really great iron and boosts some of your digestive health. Do your stretching like you normally do. Do, I would say 25 to 40 push-ups, and then 10, I'd say 15 to 25 squats. Awesome. And that gets the blood and all of a sudden then you sit down, you've done enough to feel it, but not too much to where you've taken too much time or too much energy. I think you would really love that.
I would. I know it'll be good for me. I've been this thing of falling out of love with the amount of things and just falling in love with one thing at a time, because I'm such a consumer. Like, I can do it all. I'm such a believer. I can do everything, all of it right now. I'm going to draw a plan out. This is my new morning regimen, and it's water, stretching, reading my goals, writing in my gratitude journal. Like, these are all the things that I have in my morning routine now. But instead, at first, it was my water and my breath work.
I'll just try these two.
That's it. I'm gonna get, and the big one for me was not drinking. I mean, that was and it was like, if I'm going to not drink and commit to this large morning routine, something's gonna break down. Like, because it's just all so much at one time. It's just
realistic.
So it's just, that's right.
I'm
really,
only do so much.
I'm really excited about my commitment to just adding one thing at a time. So the supplements are really I don't know. Supplements and strength. I mean, I feel really good about like my weight, just like I've shedded some of those extra, pounds, not drinking.
Yeah, you look good.
My sleep. Thank you. And the fact I'm a little swollen today from probably dumping some chemical energy yesterday. But I do feel good. You get a little confidence. My clothes are fitting better, and just, little things like that. And, but I do need some strength. I know I'm lacking physical strength, because I've really just been focused on those one or two things, and so I need to get some. So I think that the squats and the push-ups will be my add-on.
It's a really fun thing. I've always wanted to do it, and it was just and I was talking to a client, and I was sharing with them. I'm like, hey, this would be a great thing for you to do, and they were definitely in need of some strength. But you know what? I'll do it with you, and let's do a 3-week little challenge. Not challenge, let's do a 3-week accountability support system. And every time I get mine done, I'll text you, hey, got them in. And every time you get them done, you text me. And I do that from time to time with clients, whether it be their visualization practice or meditation practice or something like this. And so it was so great. And it was everything I thought it would be that I've always wanted to do, but because we're always so busy with life. And then now I just absolutely love it.
Yeah, no, it's good. I have in the past had that in my morning routine, this push-ups specifically, not squats. I had this thing I read an article in Outside Magazine about a guy who's 72 years old, and since he was in his mid-30s, he did his age in push-ups and sit-ups every morning. Still to this day at 72, he does 72 push-ups and 72 sit-ups every morning.
Baller.
And so I added that to my routine. I've fallen off recently, but I had my boys doing it with me at their age as well. So Rio's doing 8 and 8 at the time, and Royce was doing 11 and 11, and I was doing 41 and 41. And
wait, how old are you now?
42.
Are you really?
Yeah.
You look great.
Thanks, bud. I feel good. I really feel good right now.
Yeah, your skin, your lightness, you can tell the difference. And I was surprised because I didn't drink a ton. I quit after we came back from Europe last summer. And I was like share a bottle of wine once every couple of weeks with Nikki. And then believe it or not, Jaeger, since it's herbal, you know, I've been a fan of Jaeger. It's herbal, it's medicinal, it's a great, just digestive. So just a little glass of that every once in a while. And I didn't think it would be that big of an impact. It was huge. Yeah. I couldn't believe how much, even with that subtlety, how much better I felt.
Yeah. There is absolutely the obvious, which is how much better I feel, and the better I feel is like sleeping. It's a big one.
And mind clarity, right?
Well, so yes, but what comes with mind clarity for me is really intense. I'm going to say some really not so great things right now. Sure. So just prepping everyone, but like I find myself judging a lot because I'm at a happy hour. I still am meeting my social. My business is so social. So instead of like, no, I can't meet you at happy hour. Like, of course I can meet you at happy hour. I'm just going to drink a soda water. And then whoever I'm with is 2 cocktails in, and, the cognitive connectivity just starts to wane, and the judgment goes up, and the, cursing increases, and all these things. And then I find myself judging or getting frustrated that the gap is growing wider in our ability to communicate and connect the way that we did before the alcohol happened, or the speed at which I'm thinking, my thought process is working, which I'm already a quick thinker, and I'm a quick creative thinker, and I have the ability to process into the future in creative conversations and then work myself back to what's actually being happening. And I'm finding myself
on top of intuition, where you can actually hear what's coming before it's coming. There's a different level just to what you're saying, where you just kind of know where it's going.
Yes. Now here's the challenge. I'm getting frustrated with the person sitting across from me because I've already gone to the future and come back, and I have to wait until you're done. You know what I mean? And it's like, God, maybe I should just go get a drink so I'm foggy and hungover so that we can converse this way. And
Let me slow down to be with you.
That's right. Which is like, and it sounds so almost arrogant, and it's not. It's just, again, this like, wow, the clarity is so intense. People have been asking me like, why'd you quit drinking? And I said, because I want to be world class. They say, world class at what? Being human.
Yeah.
Right? That's 100%. Really it. Right? And, but it's intense when there's so many people not focused on, not being intentional about being their best human self, being their best self. And
it's a lot of work. Yeah. I mean, it is and it isn't.
I want to finish with this, which is it's kind of created this want for me to be recluse. You know what I mean? Like, I'd just rather be alone. And that's a scary thing for me because I've never been that way. I've always been so wanting to be connected and wanting to be with people. And then I'm back to this self-audit conversation of like, who's serving where I'm going to go?
Right.
Not many people. So now I'm finding myself not shutting off relationships, but just not being as excited to engage in those relationships.
Sure.
And then feeling the judgment from them. So it's this is that Hulk to Bruce Banner thing that's going on right now.
So a couple of cool things there is you've got understanding and awareness down really well. It's the acceptance piece that when you, in that real-time situation at that happy hour, elevate to the next skill level of acceptance, then you won't care at what speed they're going. You won't care how long it takes them to get there. If you've gone to the future and back, which I 100% know what that means when you say that, now you go, okay, well, how can I play with it now that I already know what the outcome's going to be? Now, how can I play and sprinkle opportunity, enlightenment, magic? I already have accepted this is what it is. Now, how can I play in this space?
That's where I said earlier, did you hear me mention practice? That's what I call practice. So like the awareness leads to the ability to heal, right? I shared that. In this particular instance, the healing for me is judgment, right? The acceptance, the opposite of judgment is acceptance. And working through, like, I'm judging right now. Okay, so what do you do with that? Well, accept. I know, but I'm really annoyed by this person right now. Like, why? It's my own trigger. They didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
They're not consciously doing anything to affect me. I'm letting them affect me. And now I'm judging, working myself back to acceptance. And they don't even know. I just am having like this, having this internal debate with my ego.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's, and that practice is so fun for me.
Yeah.
It's gritty. It's like, it's the work. It's where the magic happens. And I'm doing it in every area of my life right now. It's that thing I was saying of like, it starts with disappointment. Like, oh man, I really suck. You know what I mean? Like, holy cow. And then it's like, okay, no, you don't. Now that you're aware, now you can begin the healing. And then I find myself in the moment judging or being critical or whatever. And now it's like, okay, work to acceptance. It's like, man, this is really hard to accept. I want to slap this person. You know what I mean?
Isn't the humanness great? Like the humanness is so big in all of us.
Yeah, totally.
But I can appreciate the recluse part of that too, because there's been many a times, and I think we've even talked about it. I'm like, dude, I'm going to go just find a mountain and just go mind my own business. And literally, I was looking 3.5 hours away and buying a mountain. And it was and then once I understood kind of how that wasn't going to serve me, but also how I can still be, if I'm not 50-50, I'm not 50% integrated into like social and humanity. Yours is a little different business-wise because most of my work can be through a screen and some stuff's in person only if I choose. But the point is that I don't have to go out there if I don't want to. and part of your business with such a huge social aspect, there's tons of those events. And whether it's a big opening at an open house where you're launching a house that's massive and awesome, and because you guys list some amazing homes at Northern Coast. So there's always, and of course, everyone else is wanting to have a social time and social hour. So it doesn't even have to be at a bar. Like, you're getting that experience no matter where you're at.
Constantly.
But I would say that it's okay to feel the essence of feeling recluse, because what you're really saying on a positive level is, I am enough to be with myself just as I am. Now, if we can turn that, take the acceptance, turn that up a little bit, then you can still feel, you won't want to pull away because you don't want to be around people. You want to pull away because you're in love with yourself and your environment. And then you'll amp your group of people you do spend time with. And then when you are still in those situations, like, you know, at that happy hour where you're like, oh, is this really what we're talking about right now? You'll be good.
Yeah. Yeah, I am learning that space right now. I'm just a student. I'm in like 4th grade, it feels like, you know, in that space where it's like, you know, yes, I'm okay loving myself, but then I'm also pulled back to like, but I miss what fed my non-love of self, right? I mean, the emptiness, right? All of the social and all of the people and all of the relationships fed the emptiness. So then there's a part where I'll be drawn back to that. It's interesting. I want to highlight something. It was 2 or 3 days ago, and I have to think about who it was. I will come up with it, but somebody asked. We were in an organic conversation, much like we're in now, and I made a comment about, I don't have a lot of friends. And they were really surprised by me saying this. And in the same organic conversation, I was talking about spending time with you. And the person, I will remember who it was, said, it's so funny. I was talking to Al not in the too recent past, and he said the same thing. He doesn't have a lot of friends, except you guys are going to hang out this weekend. And I was like, exactly. That's yes. Because I think, and you know, my interpretation, these words won't be exact, but like, I think we serve ourselves by being with each other. I think if that, it's probably the right way to say it. And so it's, but it was pretty interesting. So I'll figure out who this was and I'll tell you later, but, and it wasn't someone obvious. Yeah. It wasn't, it was not somebody obvious. It wasn't Stephanie. It wasn't, you know, it was, Chris, it was not somebody obvious. So I'll think about who it was, but yeah, pretty interesting.
Probably maybe a Jason Hall or something like that.
I will dial it in.
Well, listen, in spirit of you and the time you shared today, I'm really appreciative of that. I know I'm sure you have still plenty of full day left.
I do.
Even though it's a Sunday. And I want to honor that. Yep. If you still have some time, which I think we do, we'll cook up some great breakfast burritos if you're interested in that. And then, but I really appreciate this.
Of course.
Your Instagram is?
Brian C. North.
Cool. And North & Co. is the Instagram for North.
For the company, yeah.
You do post a lot of fun things, and you have some really great content. My favorite is your kids and all the fun things you do. And anytime they're on video with you, I'm like, yes, this is it. This is like what I wait for.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. My Instagram's, I don't post a lot. I go on runs, right? Where like, you know, I'll go for a week and I'll post a handful of things and I just disappear for a couple of weeks. And it's really, my approach to that feels really good, where it's just like, I really am unattached from social media. And if in that moment it's good enough to take a picture and share with the world, it for sure lit me up. Whether it's a picture of a pelican on a pier. I mean, it's one of my favorite pictures when I look through my Instagram page. Like, it's a pelican on a pier at the beach and nobody really knows what I was feeling at that moment, you know, which is totally fine. I don't care. Or with my kids, or snowboarding adventure, or something at work, but it's just really like, this is my life. This is what's lighting me up. So. For
me, I feel the same. I've been living my life versus posting my life, and that's not a bad thing. I literally have been so busy that I'll just forget social media exists, and I'll just be doing whatever it is I'm doing. So, but I still love following you for those runs that you go on, and I encourage anyone else to do the same. But I love you, brother.
Thanks. I love you
so
too.
much.
Yeah.
And I thank you for spending time with me today.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks for having me. I'm glad we can make a difference together.
Yeah.
You've made enough of an impact on me. I'm glad I can add some value back.
Thank you so much.
You know it for sure.
All right. Cool, brother. That's all good.